let's talk about how we're going to do some writing in this class, because you're going to have to write a couple of memos. I do not believe we have you write technical reports anymore, except for the last optimization project at the end of the semester. So the important thing is going to be the memo, because this is probably the most likely thing that you'll write in a professional setting. So if you go under Blackboard and take a look, you can see I've got some stuff posted. The first is a lab memo format, and this is actually really just an adapted general format for a memo that you'd write in any kind of business environment. And so basically a couple things to note is at the top it should be clearly labeled memorandum like I've got shown here, so your readers know exactly what you're receiving. You're going to have a to, from, date, and subject, and this is all information that you can quickly look at and come up with the who's being addressed, by who, and why. And it's very important to get this stuff all up front. So the to line should be to the reader of the memo, the from is you, and sometimes you would initial it with pen after you write it out in format, but we're doing this electronically, so not to worry about it. The date is obviously the date, and the subject is at the top. It should basically explain what's going on in the memo, and typically that's in all caps. And so a memo is going to be made up of three parts, or three sections. Section 1, you're going to quickly get to the point and say why the memo is going here. In an academic paper, this would be like the abstract. It's basically you're delivering the most critical information right in the beginning, so that way when the big executive reads it, only reads the very first part, he knows what the rest of your memo is talking about. The second paragraph is really you're expounding on things and giving the supporting evidence for your main statement in the document. This is going to be the most important part of the memo because you're going to be showing your results. Now, one thing, and I'm going to harp on this a lot, results mean results, which does not mean raw data. Truthfully, if you have done some calculations for me, I could give a crap less what the raw data is. I only want to see the manipulated. The only time that I'm going to want to see the raw data is if I look at your manipulated data and go, something doesn't look right here, but any of the raw data would go in the appendices. And the appendices is a part of the memo where, same thing with the report, I could throw it away and it does not change the report. So you don't bury stuff in your appendices and refer to the appendices. The appendices is extra. So none of the meat of the report should be in the appendices, just extra information. The third section is kind of where you're going to conclude things. So if you look at that first line, it says something about you might want to include specific requests for each employee. Once again, this is more of a general business kind of thing. So if this is a status update, this is all where you go, well, team member 1 is going to do this, team member 2 is going to do this, team member 3 is going to do this, and we're going to get everything done. If you're reporting results, this is where you're going to conclude everything, and it's basically that big statement in the beginning where you said this is the most important thing. This would also go in here. And then any appendices or things that you want to include with the report but aren't required by the report, that kind of gets stuffed in there. Now the thing is, this whole format goes back to something I learned when I was an AFROTC back in college, and any communication, whether it's written or oral, you need to do three things. You're going to tell somebody what you're going to tell them, you're going to tell them, and then you tell them what you just told them. And that's kind of what this is set up for. Section 1, you tell everybody what you're going to tell them in the memo. Section 2, you actually tell them, go through everything. Section 3 is your conclusion, and you kind of wrap up everything that you just told them. So one of the things I will ask you to do is write an introductory memo, and I've given you a copy of what one looks like for myself. I've got my introduction, I've got the meat of it, and I've got the wrap-up. I'll leave that to your own pleasurable reading. So two things here. I've got a general guide to tech writing and tech writing in you. Tech writing in you is 6 pages taken from a textbook talking about technical writing, and this is probably the best resource that you've got for 6 pages of technical writing. Now, the other one that I've got here, the general guide to tech writing, that's something that I wrote years ago, and it basically boils down on this top stuff here. So the most critical things about writing business communication: poor organization, spelling and cap, grammar and pronunciation, misused words, redundancy, hedging, It's basically not being non-committal. Lengthy paragraphs, lengthy sentences, anything that you're going to say, the fewer words the better, as long as it makes sense. We're engineers, we're trying to be very efficient. Passive language, inappropriate tone. So when you're writing these reports, you want to kind of keep in mind all that. So I'm not going to read through this, but you guys can read through. You're going to go through the purpose. The first couple are just talking about how you're doing things. And then we've got on page 3 talking about a technical report and what you do with technical reporting. And we keep going on just what different sections of a technical report would be. And then the very last one's cover letters, because you are going to have to write a cover letter for your optimization project. And I've found over the years that students, for some reason, do not know how to write a very good cover letter, or sometimes don't even know what a cover letter should be. So definitely take a look at this section right here at the end, those last 2 pages. It's going to go over how a cover letter is put together. And in fact, you look at the example cover letter they got here, it's kind of broken up into those 3 sections. Tell them what you're going to tell them, telling them, and then tell them what you just told them. So it's a very true thing that kind of bounds with everything. So make sure that you go through all of those. And that's it.